And happy Easter, everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Catamas, and it's Sacred Sunday, Easter morning. When I was thinking about what I wanted to do today, I thought I would love to do something special with my dear friend Lakshmi Del Sesto. Lakshmi and I have done some various creations over the years, not many for a while. She's been on Saturday Night Alive, of course, but she is one of my favorite musical voices on the planet. She's an amazing musical muse. I love her voice. And even within her voice, I love her soul and her spirit. And so we're going to have a beautiful, creative day. Well, I should say morning with you, probably about an hour. I want to welcome those of you coming into our Zoom room, Kathy and Danette, Greg, Jay, Lorna, Susan. And I want to welcome all of you watching on Facebook. And I also want to acknowledge that the majority of the people that watch this show tend to watch the replay. So even if you're watching the recording, the replay, thank you so much. And we're going to kind of drop in, kind of explore what Easter means to all of us, what Christ consciousness or spring renewal means. But to get us going, I'm going to put the spotlight on my dear friend Lakshmi. And I think she has an offering for us.
Good morning, everyone. Happy new arising day. We call it, I guess, in traditional terms, Resurrection Day. I like to think of it as the resurrection of Mother Earth. I think I'm going to do a little combo here of like a little settling and centering and singing. So as I start to play the music, you can keep your eyes open or you can shut them even just for a minute. You can let that soft hum of the harmonium start to settle your system. You can let your belly relax. Bring awareness to your belly and see if you're holding. And just let it relax on the exhale. And this is going to allow room for a deeper inhale. So just take a nice deep inhale through your nose. And on the exhale, you can start by making a tone. This is the beginning of singing, sighing and toning. So again, nice deep inhale through your nose and exhaling on a tone. Well, that one was without a tone, but I'm going to do it again. And just one more inhale, imagining that you're breathing all the way down into your hips. And exhaling on a tone again. And one more breath all the way down to your hips, your legs, your feet, connecting with the earth beneath you. I'm going to sing a chant, and you join me anytime that you feel to. Govinda, Govinda, Gopal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopal. Govinda. Govinda, Govinda, Gopal. 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 Radharama, 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 Govinda, Govinda, Gopal. Govinda, Govinda, Gopal.
Thank you so much. It just takes us into such a beautiful space. I'm reflecting on one of the things that I love about kind of our tribe Lakshmi is that we're primarily non-denominational. You know, on Easter Sunday, we can start with a beautiful chant, from a different tradition. And yet it's all sacred. And I think that's certainly where my personal spirituality is right now. It's just learning to see the divine in all, seeing the divinity in everything, and not being attached to what is religious or what is sacred, but trying to see the sanctity in everything. So I want to invite all of us to reflect on what resurrection means to you. What does spring renewal mean to you? What does the Christ consciousness rising mean for you, or the second coming of Christ? What what does this time mean to people? And since Lakshmi is my special guest, I'm going to ask her first, and then I'll answer. And also, really want to invite people to pop it into the chat box. Would love to hear from you, Kathy, Charlotte, Danielle, Deborah, Danette, Greg, and others. Feel free to write in the chat box what this time means to you. But Lakshmi, you talked a little bit about the renewal of the earth. Tell us more.
Well, I see this time more I feel this time. By the time winter rolls around, I very much, after a big expansive summer, and fall gives us this gentle time of transition, and by the time winter comes, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to go into the cave. I'm ready to go into the dark. I'm ready to pull in. Summer always feels like the bright sun, the late nights of light, and this big expansion. I'm often performing outside, lots of expansion, and by the time winter rolls around, I'm ready to go in and cultivate on the inside. The light is shorter. It's days stop more at like 5 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock. Build fires. I meditate more. I'm socializing less. I'm nurturing something on the inside. feels very natural. And by the time spring rolls around, I'm done with that. I'm done with the cave. I'm wanting something else. I'm wanting something different, and I can feel myself connected with the cycles of time and weather, and the cave is no longer as necessary, and I feel this thing, whatever it was that's been nurtured inside of me, wanting to kind of crack open that little seed, and a little sprout of something comes out, a consciousness, a project, a connection with a person, a work. Not that it wasn't going on all along, but it's another level. And then, even more kind of on a subtler level, as I literally just feel spring always brings an expansion of the heart. And although that song was not about Christ, I chose that song because it feels like spring to me. It feels like this soft green bud, like the um, the nature that's born at this time, the soft green, the wild flowers that are very delicate. They don't stay long. They birth, they show their glory, and then they're gone. They're kind of fragile and beautiful and light and delicate. And I feel spring is like that. Summer's a little more hardy, and earth is a little more delicate. It's like this delicate, gentle, warm flowering of the heart. And that's kind of the Mother Earth side of it. But I feel that we're in a time where, the masculine and the feminine need to come together rather than one be dominant over the other, as it's been for the past, I don't know, thousands of years. Before Christ there was a matriarchy, and now it's time for the two to come together. So in my body, I feel the cycles of nature, and spring brings this renewal. And in my consciousness, what we talked about, the Christ consciousness, I feel that light in my mind, the light of inspiration, the light of intellect, the light of conscious awareness blooming in my mind. So in my earth, the mother, I feel the cycles moving in my body, and in my consciousness, in my mind, I feel the light of consciousness waking up from a winter dream and beginning to take form. So that's what I want to say.
That was beautiful. It's just, I'm reminded of what a wordsmith you are, and just the beautiful pictures you painted with your words. Thank you, Lakshmi.
You're welcome.
I'll share my thoughts in a moment, but I want to acknowledge that some people in the chat box are writing. Lorna wrote, dropping conditioning and old stories and being born anew. That's rather similar to what Lakshmi was sharing. And Deborah Haviland writes, this time is all about us learning how to be in the frequencies of divine love. And I see resurrection as a time to let ego die even more and let our souls rise, to be reborn again in our true spiritual nature, and to live our life on purpose. Deborah was born on Easter Day, so this is a deeply meaningful priority holy day for her. And she loves all the new fresh energy of spring, more sunlight, flowers blooming, birds chirping, new inspirations. Beautiful. I guess I'll focus for a moment on kind of what I see, or not even see, how I experience it. I differentiate between Jesus, the human being, who obviously was an extraordinary human being and an extraordinary soul, and Christ consciousness. And for me, I think that there's, if you will, kind of a double entendre. There's the story of Jesus, the human being, who was crucified and resurrected. And then there is the Christ consciousness, which is available to us all. And I appreciate that for many people, they really honor Jesus and the Jesus story. And for me, the Jesus story is an allegory. It's more of an inspiration to find the resurrection within myself, to find the rising of the Christ consciousness within myself. You know, Jesus' name was not Jesus Christ. His name was Jesus of Nazareth. He attained Christ consciousness. And at least according to the spiritual teachers that I've been most influenced by, the Christ consciousness is available to us all. We can all experience Christ consciousness in our own unique ways through meditation or yoga or an epiphany of sorts. And so I seek to cultivate the Christ consciousness within myself through my own practices. And my own practices are really primarily, like I said earlier, seeking to see the divinity, seeking to see the divine in all. And obviously through compassion, because of the nature of my work, really holding the sacred space of compassion for how challenging it is to be a human being. It's very, very challenging. There's some more wonderful writings which I'm going to share, and then maybe we'll have a little more music from Lakshmi. Charlotte writes, Easter is definitely about renewal and return to the light. But for me, and this is Charlotte that I'm reading for, it's also about the resilience of the human spirit, our ability to heal, to overcome, to rise again. It's about forgiveness, release, redemption, and hope. This is so important this year as we are journeying through dark times to a new ascended consciousness and entering and embracing opportunities for a renewed, loving, compassionate humanity. Wow, such beautiful writings and sharings today. Thank you. Suzanne writes, me too, Scott. I feel that was Jesus teaching the rising of Christ consciousness within us and all. I'm going to share just a little bit about Andrew Harvey for a moment, because that kind of came up for me just now. And then, Lakshmi, are you up for another song in a moment? She's nodding her head. Okay, good. One of the wonderful joys of my year has been doing all of these online shows, and of course, especially Saturday Night Alive, in which I've been able to reconnect with many of my favorite teachers, Marianne Williamson, Reverend Michael Beckwith. But probably the greatest joy has been my relationship with Andrew Harvey. I've read his books and I've been following him for 20 years and just always admired him. But other than at a book signing, I'd never met him, and that was just a quick handshake. But because of Saturday Night Live, we've developed a friendship. And it's really been wonderful. And for any of you who don't know who Andrew is, he's extraordinary. He's written over 40 books. He's an amazing scholar. He speaks multiple languages. And he has really studied many of the sacred texts in their original languages, including doing a really beautiful translation of the Gospel according to Thomas. Now, the Gospel according to Thomas was one of the books that they found in a cave in 1947 that had been stifled by the Christian church when they were choosing what books to put into the Bible, and they kind of rewrote some of them. The Gospel according to Thomas is just quotes from Jesus. There's absolutely no, it's not story, it's quotes. And it paints a picture of who he truly was, because it's his own, what he had to say, his own quotes. And he's very compassionate, but also very strong and very dynamic. And he's an activist. And Andrew coined, based on that, he was inspired and coined the phrase sacred activism. Sacred activism. And I love that phrase, and I love the vision behind it. And that to me is something right now that when I read what Charlotte wrote, it inspired me to mention that, because we are coming out of a very divisive presidency, a very divisive time, and a lot is up for us as a culture, as a country, to really examine social injustice, racial injustice, economic injustice. This is really up for us right now. And, what happened, the voting laws in Georgia, the trial of the man who murdered George Floyd, it's up. It's up for us. And may we all find our sacred activism. And as Andrew so beautifully reminds us, it's not about being against something. It's about being for something. What is it that you're for in your heart? So it's not even being against racism, but it's being for racial equity. So when we are finding our sacred activism, may it be the movement of our heart toward what we long for, the vision that we long for, as opposed to a reaction away from something that we hate, so that we're in a movement of positive love toward what we want, as opposed to a reactive, angry, energetic frequency. So there's a reminder for us as we enter spring in this time of new life. And I am excited because I see Lakshmi is reaching for the guitar, and I love Lakshmi guitar and song. So I'm putting the spotlight on you, Lakshmi.
Okay. I just wanted to tell a very short story. I met Andrew Harvey about 25 years ago. He was teaching at CIIS, California Institute of Integral Studies, a graduate school. And my friend was enrolled in his class, and his lectures became so popular that the students were unsuppressible, and so the classroom would fill up with all kinds of people, including myself, who was not enrolled in the class. And those of us who were not enrolled, we'd sit on the floor in between the aisles of the seated students and just bask in Andrew Harvey's incredible lyrical wisdom. And it was a real gift to get to be with him in person that way. So this song is another sing-along. And some of you may know it, and if you don't, it's pretty easy to catch along. Please sing along in your living rooms with me. There is a point where I'm going to sing a Sanskrit mantra called the Gayatri Mantra. And the Gayatri Mantra is all about the dawning of the light. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts are beating as one. Light upon light upon light, shining as bright as the sun. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts are beating as one. Light upon light upon light, shining as bright as the sun. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts are beating as one. Light upon light upon light, shining as bright as the sun. Love upon love upon love, all hearts are beating as one. Light upon light upon light, shining as bright as the sun. Shining as bright as the sun. All disappear into one. All disappear into one. One more time. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. A good old Jah Levi song.
Oh, it was beautiful. I didn't know that was Charlie Levi song.
I'm
I
not
want
sure
to
if it was originally his, but he certainly made it popular. It might have been.
I want to invite all of us as we really reflect on just the simple message of that. What does the way of the heart mean for each of us individually? As you imagine letting the way of the heart shine through you personally for you, each of us watching, because I'm loving what people have been writing. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does the way of the heart shining through look like or feel like? And please pop it into the chat box, also on Facebook, and I'll share the musings. I think, for me, the way of the heart is really noticing when I'm in judgment and noticing when I'm judging myself, because that's probably who I judge the most, or judging others, and compassionately forgiving myself in the moment and then seeing beyond the judgment. That's for me the way of the heart. That's what comes up for me. Lakshmi, anything that comes up for you? What's the way of the heart look like or feel like for you?
Yeah, the way of the heart, I would say, is I think it starts with a a profound kindness towards the self, towards yourself, because there's so much that arises in the heart. And sometimes we are in conflict with what arises in our hearts. We can feel like the challenging emotions. Sometimes we feel in this culture that we're not even supposed to be feeling these challenging emotions. So I feel like the way of the heart starts with learning how to be a kind friend to our own heart in whatever way it's arising, because whether it's right or wrong, what happens in our heart, it's natural. If we have an emotional response to something, there's a reason for it. There's really a deep intelligence behind it. If we are able to be with it fully and understand it fully, we come to recognize the intelligence behind it. And as we're able to be with it fully, it transforms into insight and wisdom and guidance. And so I think just being profoundly present and kind towards our own hearts is a way to begin to let it lead us towards people and life opportunities and situations, and as well as just deeply and profoundly towards ourselves, but towards life in general. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm going to read some of the, that's beautiful, actually. I'm going to read some of the comments that had come in a little bit earlier on Facebook. Joyce wrote, so this is in reference to what this time of year means. She wrote, renewal and growth, breathing fresh air deeply, expanding my physical space by exploring outward in my natural surroundings. And Shira Seaver wrote, renewal, rebirth, divine union, unconditional love. A few comments from our Zoom room here. Leah, who's a longtime friend, writes, I'm enjoying being here today and hearing lovely Lakshmi sing. Isn't it a delight to hear Lakshmi sing? Oh my God, so good. Leah continues, bringing back beautiful river memories, remembering Gail, the river goddess. Beautiful teachings here, enjoying Lakshmi's soothing voice as we share this Sunday together in community and welcoming in the new. Thank you, Leah. Glad you're here. Deborah Haviland, in response to the question of what the way of the heart means, writes, for me, For me, it means living life through our heart wisdom. And in Sufism, we say, bow your head below your heart and look through the eye of your heart and listen through the ears of our heart. The way of the heart is a deep walking of daily practices to train ourselves to be the love, mercy, compassion, and empathy, no matter what is going on around us. This takes learning to sustain heart perspective. Beautiful. Thank you, Deborah. Gonna go to gallery view. Get both of us here. You know, I mentioned a little bit before about racial and social and economic justice, and that's really up for me right now. And I've noticed that it's up for Lakshmi too by some of the posts you've done over, really the past year. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to talk about it because Easter and spiritual time is not just kind of the beauty part, but it's like, okay, what's going on in our world and what can we do to make a difference in our world? And there's the inner spiritual work that we need to do. And then there is the action to take in the outer world. And it's finding that sweet spot. I know Jay Mayer is with us and he's taught me the term sweet spot. So finding that sweet spot between our inner examination, our inner contemplation, our inner reflection, and taking a stand and taking action in the outer world. And Lakshmi, you've always been somebody that has, I know you well enough to know that you have both those sides. You have a very inner self-reflective side, and you also are certainly an activist. Anything you want to share about that?
Oh, Wow. Yeah, I certainly feel that it's very important to have both. And I think both feed each other very well. And I think it's hard ultimately to have one without the other. I think if we are only and ever doing our spiritual work, it can become sometimes a little narcissistic. And if we're only and ever doing social justice work, it can tilt into a lot of maybe like wow, I feel I'm not quite sure how to say that right now, but it's
Can I put in the words self-righteousness? Would that be
sure. That's not what I was going to say, but that sounds like something. Sure, self righteousness and an aggravation maybe without ground, like
Mhm.
not that anger and aggravation isn't an absolutely valid response, but without ground, and sometimes that's just not as effective for getting certain things done. And I guess I want to say too that I'm speaking particularly from the white perspective of activism because I'm not a person of color, so I just can't speak from that perspective. And just on that note, I guess I kind of feel that although you said moving towards, I want to use this languaging of dismantling racism. It's kind of an inside job, and I mean that on several fronts. I mean that on the front of like rooting out our what we call implicit bias, ways that we don't know that we're holding biases, maybe from our childhood, really deeply ingrained stuff that we're just really completely unaware of. But also on the external, that in a white dominant culture, it takes white people in positions of power and systems of power to get into those systems and dismantle biases that exist on a systemic level, because we are the ones that have the greatest amount of access to that at this point, unfortunately. And although that's changing absolutely wildly right now, which is a wonderful thing to see, um, it just, in studying racism this past year, it's come to my knowledge, past 2 years, I'd say more so, like even in Marin County, just in 20 years ago, if you bought your house 20 years ago, you could look at your title and see that there was something in your title that legally made it impossible for you to sell your home to a person of color. So that's shocking. And so that's what I mean by an inside job. Like it takes people who are in those offices and those administrations and those departments to change those kinds of laws that are just antiquated, and but they're still harmful and painful and legal. So it's breaking down the systems from the inside out and breaking down our own unconscious awarenesses from the inside out.
Mm. No, thank you. So one of the things that there was a wonderful article that came out where it was all about the racist languaging that we've gotten used to. And one example is the term master bedroom. All the time we say, "Oh yeah, this is the master bedroom."
Whoa.
Master bedroom completely goes back to slavery. That's where the master's bedroom was. And I about a week ago, when the Georgia law was voted in, I was just shocked by the photograph of these white men all around the desk as they're signing the Georgia voting law. And behind them, there's a painting, and it was a painting of a plantation.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what's up in the office of the governor as he's signing this bill. It's remarkable, absolutely just remarkable, and shocking to me that after all this time, we're still murdering Black people, and police are still murdering Black people. It happened again yesterday or
And
2 days.
Asians and Latinos. I mean, it's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and thank you. Not just Black people. It's just, it's extraordinary. All right, I am going to read some of the messages from all of our people that are coming in. I really do thank people for writing. And it's really nice to make this participatory. Um, and we're getting some compliments. Yes, it is a beautiful show. Thank you, Deborah. Charlotte writes, this is going back a little bit about the way of the heart. Charlotte writes, I think sometimes it is also about giving ourselves permission to be in the heart space, to challenge some of the conditioning that tells us we need to be logical, rational, and so on. Finding love for self, filling up the heart with energy of love, and then letting that radiate outwards to all of creation. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Um, and Charlotte also wrote a beautiful quote, which is certainly very applicable to what we're talking about. It's a quote from Austin Channing Brown. When we're filled with love for other people, injustice becomes intolerable. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, you're right. It's funny, on Friday night, the show that I did on Street Talk was with my friend Jessica Osterday, who teaches about brain spotting. And really, we do have these different parts of the brain. We have the logical part of the brain, we've got the reptile reaction part of the brain, and then we have the frontal lobe. And that's where the empathy center of the brain is, the observer part of the brain. And I'd love to share this story. And those of you who follow me, you've heard me share the story before, but it's so beautiful. It's about the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama allowed brain researchers to hook up electrodes to his brain, and they tracked how his mind works, how his brain works. Now, again, we have several different parts, but again, a reminder, the ancient part of us, both biologically and anthropologically, is the reptile brain, and it's only about survival. When we're in reptile brain, when we perceive the possibility of attack, not attack itself, just the possibility of attack, reptile brain takes over, and we only have four options: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawn is where you kind of just surrender. Then there's the logical part of the brain where we figure stuff out, where we do mathematics and where we figure things out from a logical perspective. That's the Spock part of the brain, if you will. And then there's the frontal and temporal lobes, which is the empathy center and the observer part of the brain. So they hook up the stuff to the Dalai Lama and they run tests with him for like 90 minutes. And to their shock and astonishment, at all times, his synapses were entirely firing in the frontal lobe. Even at the end, they decided to really test it. So they showed him photographs of Chinese soldiers burning down a Tibetan temple. And as he looked at these photographs, he wept. He wasn't stuffing his emotions. It wasn't like he was just like, he wept. But the synapses continue to fire in the frontal lobe. So finally, the lead researcher really went for it. He said, I want to know what you think when you think about Chinese soldiers raping Tibetan women, murdering Tibetan people. What do you think? What do you feel? And the Dalai Lama was very quiet. He wept a little bit. It was very quiet for a while, but the synapses continue to fire up here. And then finally he said, it reminds me that I must pray equally for the Chinese as I do for my Tibetan people. This is where we are going. This is the movement of the human species. We're all going to receive experiences, input that triggers us. And we're, the old way is reptile brain reactivity. Or then try to logically figure it out. But when we can live in this part of the brain, where we can live, where we can see the big picture, that's why he's angry. That's why she's scared. That's why he did what he did. That's why she's saying what she's saying. We can understand it. We don't have to condone it, but we can understand it. And we can have compassion for ourselves and how that impacts us, and also compassion for the other. that's where we're going. That's the way of the heart. That really is the way of the heart. And the last thing I'll say about this, and then listen to Lakshmi and see what other comments may have come in, is anthropologists and biologists do say that the human species is evolving. We are spending more and more time up here and less time back here. And the studies have shown that each generation further removed from violence and violent trauma, the offspring naturally spend more time in the frontal lobe. Whereas those of us who have grew up in trauma or had parents that had trauma, the more trauma there is in the ancestral lineage, the more we're predisposed to be reactive. And so it's important for us to understand that and that movement of the species. Anyway, kind of went off on that. And I'm going to turn it back over to Lakshmi for whatever Lakshmi wants to say, sing, or do.
Oh, gosh. I'm torn between two songs right now, which rarely happens.
Well, then we'll have to play both of them today.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but let's see. This song is a little bit about kind of a relationship, but mostly it's about how love even within a relationship with another person, just the love itself can be a guiding force in our lives. You walk through my door, I feel a sense of perfect contradiction. Never mind what I've been missing. You say you want more, I surrender to a surprising perfection, and I let you in. You are my guiding star when you hold me tight, in between the darkness and the light time. You are my guiding star when you love me right, in between the darkness and the light time. Never thought that love could be so easy. Used to hanging on for his next line. Can I jump with you into this love story? Maybe I'm just getting it right this time. Whoa, you are my guiding star when you love me right, in between the darkness and the light time. You are my guiding star when you hold me tight, in between the darkness and the light. Whoa, 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 whoa. You are my guiding star when you love me right, in between the darkness and the light time. You are my guiding star when you hold me tight, in between the darkness and the light, the darkness and the light. Whoa.
That is a very romantic song. That is really beautiful. That is really beautiful. And Joyce writes, Lakshmi is the perfect guest for this Easter Sunday show. Her voice is so comforting, open, and beautiful. And Susan writes, beautiful, enriching. Thank you, Scott, Lakshmi, and everyone for this offering. Oh, thank you. I want to acknowledge a passage. A little earlier, Leah brought up Gail, who passed away many years ago, lived with Lakshmi. And I don't know if any of you know, but Sandra Hay died last night. Sandra was the co-founder of Earth Dance. And very, very beautiful member of our tribe, died from cancer. Is it quick? She just found out a couple months ago. And a lot of our beloveds were very close to Sandra, of course. So just acknowledging Sandra on her journey back into the light, back into the bigger world. And acknowledging, I'm imagining just about all of us know people that have passed. There's been so many passages, especially, COVID has increased that. And so, yeah, blessings to Sandra and blessings to any of you who have lost loved ones, because I know that's really coming up.
I'd actually like to give a little prayer and blessing for my very dear Kirtanwala friend who died very unexpectedly about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, from a heart attack. Wynn Paris. He was a really profoundly beautiful classical Indian musician and a kirtan leader, and was leading kirtan very, very, very early in the Western kirtan movement. And it's a great loss to the musical community. And he was just a very, very dear, true bhakta, true devotional bhakti soul. So I'm just sending prayers on this Easter. Thank you for bringing that up. I feel important to include him.
Yeah, thank you. Also, Martin Masters passed away on April 1st. So again, want to just acknowledge that. I know that Martin was very, very close to Deborah Giusti, to Deborah Haviland. So, yeah, it's a powerful time. And blessings to those of you, anybody in the room, anybody watching, who are dealing with physical challenges. We had Chayu Tal on our show last night live, and he was beautiful. He did this incredible kirtan. And afterwards, his beloved Nubia texted me and said, you may not have been able to tell, Scott, but he was actually in excruciating pain. He's had surgery and having spinal issues. It was amazing. He went on, he did an extra song, and then discovered that he's in such physical pain. And so again, just a reminder of appreciation when we have health, just really acknowledging those of us. I feel very, very healthy. I'm so grateful for my health, amazing health. And also just acknowledging how challenging it is for those of you, those of our community that are struggling with physical or emotional or spiritual or psychological discomfort. I want to acknowledge that too. It's a hard time for a lot of people that have lost their jobs, people that are dealing with whether it's addiction or difficult relationships. I want to acknowledge that too. And also a reminder from Deborah Haviland, Constance Demby passed away last month. Another passage. Well, I think we're just about wrapping up here. Lakshmi, how do people get more Lakshmi?
Well, that's a good question. I had my own strange pandemic year. I don't remember anymore. I mean, for sure, you can private message me and through Facebook, Lakshmi Del Sesto, um, my website, lakshmidevi.net, I think. I'm telling you. But please private message me. And I wanted to let people know that I am offering somatic singing and somatic coaching one-on-one sessions via Zoom right now, and soon to be more in person. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And if you want to hear more about that, please just reach out to me and I can explain it in more detail. And I would like to offer a short closing sing along when you're ready.
Okay, perfect. I want to acknowledge a couple more events, and then that's great that we get to have one more Luxury song. I was kind of hoping. Um, so there are two events that are coming up I want to acknowledge. Oh, it looks like, okay, I'm going to actually promote Christy to panelist. Christy came in as Scott Catamas. So Christy Michaels, who may be joining us in a moment online, is doing an amazing, beautiful event tonight. It's the Magdalene Easter Moonrise Zoom celebration. And this is, I believe, the 10th year she's put this on. Of course, it used to always be a live event, but now it's going to be an online event. And Nina Gray, who she met through Saturday Night Live and one of our favorite musicians, is going to be singing. And Kathleen McGowan is a special guest. She's a remarkable author who's written about Mary Magdalene quite a bit. And just wonderful music, dance. Elizabeth Kelly will be there, of the Holy Order of Mary Magdalene. So that's tonight at 7 p.m. And you can RSVP online by going to the Gospel of Mary Magdalene.info. Gospel of Mary Magdalene.info. And that's going to be pretty special. I'll also bring up here's a little poster of all the different people that are going to be participating, and it's really quite a collection she's put together. Again, Nina Gray, would you hear Nina sing? She sang live on Saturday Night Live last night, and she's great. Anyway, a lot of wonderful, beautiful souls, a lot of beautiful beings tonight at 7 o'clock, so you can still register for that. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is tomorrow evening is the premiere of a wonderful show that Deborah Howland, who's been joining us today. Deborah's in our chat room. She is going to be premiering the new night, the new evening of her show, Universal Heart Wisdom, and I'm going to be guest hosting. And we've invited Chris Irwin, who is generally regarded as the horse whisperer, the leading authority on how to communicate with horses. But he's an extraordinary man, very wise. And so that's happening tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I see that Deborah has put into the chat box the link where you can join. So please join us at 6 o'clock Pacific time. So all the time zones I've been giving for Mary Magdalene tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and Universal Heart Wisdom tomorrow night at 6 p.m. So definitely join us for those. They're going to be really beautiful, sacred, and fun events. And speaking of fun, I am so glad we get to hear one more Lakshmi song.
Okay, this requires your involvement. It's very simple. When I rise, let me rise like a bird with no regrets, joyfully. When I fall, let me fall like a leaf with no regrets, joyfully. And that's it. Sing it with me. When I rise, let me rise like a bird with no regrets, joyfully. When I fall, let me fall like a leaf with no regrets, joyfully. One more time. When I rise, let me rise like a bird with no regrets, joyfully.
I've noticed that in both of Lakshmi's last two songs, there is a similar theme that I hear. The first one being held between the light and the dark, here being in joy, whether we're rising or falling. And so I noticed that in both of those, it's really acknowledging the seasons of life, the movement, and finding that space of being held within ourselves, within our faith, through our faith, whether it's an up time or a down time, whether it's a bright time or a dark time. So I noticed that, and that's a beautiful message for this Easter Sunday. And remember, we can make any day, any time, any moment sacred by the way of the heart, by being in our frontal lobe, by choosing to see the divinity in all. I do see there's some comments here, and they're mostly thank yous to Lakshmi for her beautiful, beautiful music. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Lakshmi. I so enjoyed this. This was
Please
great.
reach out, people. I'd love to connect with you one-on-one, so private message me.
Private message, Lakshmi. All right, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you tonight, Mary Magdalene. Tomorrow night, Universal Heart Wisdom. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Good night, everybody.